podcast where we explore the exciting blend of AI, aging, and the digital innovation. I'm Han Brown, and together with AI 50 and Microsoft Startup, our goal is very simple to make AI understandable and useful for everyone. Our approach is rooted in Azure's technology, focusing on building a unified AI ecosystem that is safe, private, and cost effective, particularly for senior care. Our journey isn't just about cutting edge technology, it's about creating a connected world where AI solutions are easy, safe, and designed with everyone in mind, especially for the aging population. So, we're dedicated to developing a unified AI platform that enhances life quality and brings us closer together. So each week, we dive into discussions with experts about how this unified AI ecosystem is transforming businesses and lives of older adults. So whether you're a professional in the senior care, a caregiver, or just simply keen on the intersection of aging, health, and tech, this is a spot for you for engaging conversations and much insight. So join us as we pave the way towards a more connected and compassionate era of senior care. So let's get started. So today's topic is data alchemists transforming numbers into insights. And our guest today is Skogata Ashwani, the principal data scientist at Boomi. She stands out with her expertise in health informatics and machine learning. A Carnegie Mellon graduate, she has a rich background in applying machine learning to mental health research. Her professional journey includes significant roles at Amazon and Deloitte, highlighting her diverse skills in data science and cyber risk management. She's also an active contributor in the data science community. She advocates for explainable AI and gender equality, sharing her knowledge through various platforms in her leadership role at Women in Data. So her work exemplifies a commitment to innovation and making technology accessible and transparent. So Swagata, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for the warm welcome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. So, can you share with us something about yourself professionally or personally?
Absolutely. So, like you said, my current role is at Boomi. I am working as a principal data scientist. And apart from my professional journey so far in data science, I actively collaborate and work towards women in data and those kind of initiatives that focus on bridging the gap between like gender diversity. So, I want more women to get involved in tech and educate them and mentor them. And a couple of years ago, when I was looking for a job, not just job, like getting more involved in the data field and AI field, I did not have that much of outreach. And I had to like literally reach out to people on LinkedIn. So I wanted to create a platform where it's easy for people to, especially women, to come together, share their insecurities, share what they want to do in life, how they want to get there, and create an ecosystem where they can learn and contribute and get involved in the field of AI. And I
Mm-hmm.
also, like you mentioned in the introduction, I am very passionate about explainable AI because as AI is advancing at the pace that it is, it's extremely overwhelming and sometimes it gets difficult to understand what's happening behind all of these complicated models. And so I wanted to educate people on how they can use these tools, whether they just want to understand why certain prediction was made or they want to just explore what's the possibility of what AI can do. These kind of tools can educate them and they can learn what their systems are doing in a better way.
Mm-hmm. Bless you for that mission. And I echo that. I love what you're doing. There's any way that we can add value, I'd love to. So, in the critical sectors like healthcare and finance, explainable AI is becoming incredibly important. So, can you discuss why transparency in AI models is so crucial for accountability and trust in these fields?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So a couple of years ago, I was working for a health insurance company, and we were building a tool which would suggest where the patient should be discharged after a post acute condition. Now, again, when it comes to healthcare, machine learning can only aid, it cannot dictate, because ultimately it's so important to make a decision with doctors and physicians who are experts. So it's only going to act as an aid. But with the current technology, I see that the predictions that are made are so detailed, and we need to understand like why a certain prediction was made. So let's say I'm giving a suggestion, hey, this person who has been on rehab now needs to extend his or her rehab period. There needs to be an explanation as to why that particular decision was made, so that even the physician or doctors or whoever are validating that decision understand, okay, this is the reason, and yes, I
Mhm.
think I agree or I don't agree. And for physicians to trust the system, trust the AI models, it's important that it's transparent so that they can trust it and then rely on it a little bit more than the current situation.
Absolutely. I think what you said about it can be an aid, certainly not a replacement,
Of course.
because these are data points that's gathered and it's from, abundance of data and I think the point, how people say, they're worried about job replacement, which is very real, but I think more so it is your companion, it is your co-pilot, not necessarily to replace you. So it's all in your mindset and how you form your model and execute your prompts.
Absolutely. I agree. It's not
Yeah.
going to replace you, it's only going to aid you and make you do like more creative and strategic tasks. So
Hmm.
enjoy, enjoy the.
Yes. Yeah, no, I agree. I think it could make you to be more the improved version of yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, now, what challenges do developers face when creating transparent AI models, and how do they overcome this?
So a lot of available tools that we have that are trying to solve the explainable AI, they are focusing on, they're called like post modeling phase. So let's say you build a model, and now I'm trying to use a tool that will be able to explain that AI model. So as a developer, I am building something which will try to understand something that already exists, and sometimes the explanation may not be 100% accurate. Whereas there are other kind of research that is happening where while you are building the model itself, you try to understand it rather than doing the post analysis work. So if we are able to design something which is a combination of both, that will be very powerful. Right now the biggest struggle is that, hey, we are providing this explanation, but we don't know whether it's 100% accurate or not. And that itself poses a big question mark, whether or not should we trust this system which it's saying that it doesn't know whether the explanation is valid or not. But apart from that, another challenge is convincing people that explanation and is so important, because a lot of times people just want to build something and they are okay with that being a black box, and as long as you get it done, that's more than enough. But they don't invest enough time in getting into the explainability aspect of it, because it's still a nice to have feature, it's not the most critical feature. So if we are able to tackle those two roadblocks, I think we'll have a very good product in AI, and people will trust it more.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because when you say the word black box, well, when we're trying to um, encourage businesses to use AI, we cannot work in a black box,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah,
And then not to mention the key component in this is trust. And when you work in a vacuum, you do not earn trust.
yeah,
So it's very important. And then I keep thinking too, we're not in the business of building models. We're in the business of solving problems to
exactly.
enhance productivity, efficiency in the business, but ultimately the consumers.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, in your view, how can organizations balance the complexity of AI models um, with the need for transparency to ensure trust?
I think a lot of it will come with experimentation and showing the value of it. So, for example, in my organization, or the organizations I've been part of, just presenting the value of it in terms of metrics and yeah, metrics mainly, like, hey, hypothetically, if we have explainability, what will your tool look like, and how it will set you apart from other people who are doing the same business. That is a key metric to like force them, or like trying to make them see the value of it. So that's something that I've been trying to advocate people that I work with, that's, hey, if we incorporate this, this is how your product will look like, and how it's going to add value to your product, and how people will trust it more, use it more, and in the end, everybody is a winner. So investing a little bit time and energy and putting resources into this research will go a long way. So I think that's something that people who are trying to get into this field, or trying to encourage their employers, can do something like pitch it, run some simple experiments. There are open source tools that are available which are very easy to use. Play with it and just show a demo, and it will definitely convince anyone and everyone who are trying to get into it.
Hmm. I agree. Even for myself, I think just like anything, power comes responsibility. And many people are shy, reluctant, fearful, for right reasons. But
Yeah.
I always say start small and gain confidence on those small wins. And then
Yes.
once you experience the wins and realize, well, gee, I just saved X amount of hours or even
Yeah.
tasks, you'll be amazed.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, small wins and like small simple experiments can go a long
Mhm.
way.
Yeah. And then you slowly take on bigger tasks to improve the efficiency and productivity and so forth. But
Yeah.
to for someone to come to, let's say you or I say, so how do I integrate AI? I always tell people, you know, I don't know your business. I cannot tell you how to integrate, but I would ask first that it's always best if you know what your pain points are,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because
True.
through those pain points, that's where we can integrate AI, steps at a time, so that for you to gain confidence. Because it's not a silver bullet solution. It's a enhancement, augmentation, not a replacement. But you
Mhm.
still need to know your business and where you want to enhance. AI
Yes.
is not going to do that for you if you don't already know that.
Yeah. Yeah. That's where like domain knowledge is so important, because
Mhm.
if you don't have domain knowledge, how are you going to use AI for your specific needs?
Right, right. And even a consultant, I got to tell you, you can't you can't justify, explain, or sell the idea of AI. I
Mm.
think that's very unique to the business. They have to go through that journey and come to a realization, here are my pain points,
Yeah.
and here's how I need help in. And
True.
then that
True.
collaboration is much more fruitful, because to tell a business who might think, I'm doing great,
Yeah.
who needs this? And not to mention, I got to go through a learning curve. And then one might think of all the possible reasons why it doesn't work,
Hmm.
because that's true. It may not work right away. There is a learning curve. So I
Yeah.
guess what I'm saying is there's a huge paradigm shift, aside from the technology shift.
True, true. And sometimes I also think that everybody doesn't need AI for their solution. It could be
Hmm.
sometimes that you learn that what this technology does, and
Hmm.
you can start small. It could be like
Hmm.
a simple rule-based thing that you develop first, and then you slowly iterate and add certain components of AI models. Most people try to jump into that AI buzz because we need to do it because everybody else is doing it.
Yeah,
But you can start small, see what fits you, and then iteratively get involved more.
I echo that. If it doesn't solve a problem of yours, it doesn't do anything. It's a fad, and we know that it's not.
Yeah.
It's here. It's huge. It's too big to ignore, and it can be very integral to your day to day productively. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
I
All
agree.
right. So now you've experienced a progression from senior to principal roles within major tech firms. So can you share some insights on how this career evolution unfolded and the new challenges that it brings?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the major aspect when you change roles from whatever position you are and get on to the next level, the key aspect I have observed at any organization is you already need to be performing at a senior level if you're a junior for some
Hmm.
time to be recognized and to get on to the next level. So, for example, if you're at a senior level and you're an individual contributor, you're doing your day-to-day tasks, you're reporting to your manager, that's good. But if you want to get on to the next level, take a look at what are the requirements for the next level. Like let's say for in my case, the additional responsibilities were you also need to mentor junior
Hmm.
people in the team, guide them and work with them. What can they do better? So guiding and mentoring is a very important aspect as you go on to your next level. So start doing that, and people will recognize that. And on top of that, you have to do certain things beyond your day-to-day responsibility to be recognized. So be proactive. Let's say if your organization is doing partnering with other teams on some research initiatives or some small experiments or POCs, get involved and volunteer and say, hey, I would like to get involved in this initiative. What can I do? So, and not just technical stuff, maybe you can volunteer to organize a team meeting or team gathering outside of your work, team building activities, or doing things which are beyond your to-dos requirements. You start doing that and people will notice it, and then that's how you get on to the next level. So in my case, I was doing that, and I already started mentoring junior data scientists when I was at the senior level. And that just happened organically because we hired a lot of people and they were new to the company. So I just started mentoring them, and then eventually, without even realizing, organically you start doing a little bit more and you enjoy the process, not just like looking at it as a career progression. You enjoy that process. And yeah, that's how it's been great, to be honest. Like I enjoy the balance of having a little bit of technical work, at the same time having some domain and leadership work as well, at the same time, vouching for different tools and different initiatives like explainable AI and diversity. So it's been a very good balance.
Yeah, I can imagine. I think anyone would be grateful to have you as a mentor. And I think that's one of the key attributes of leaders who are on the move is to create leaders. So
Yes,
I think
absolutely.
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
All right. So now, what key skills and attributes have you that you think it's essential in advancing to higher roles in the tech industry?
In this day and age, I think having a really good knowledge technically, so we say that, hey, AI will replace all the jobs, but only a person who understands AI can use AI, right? So if you don't understand what the code is doing or what your model is doing, you're not going to be able to make best use of it. So having good fundamental knowledge in data science or AI or whatever field you're choosing, that is again very important. Even if you think that, oh, I can google it, or I can use, your fundamentals have to be very strong for you to proceed in this technical field. Apart from that, I think good communication skills, it's very important as you proceed in your career, because only if you're able to share your findings to leadership or to management, or convince that what you've done is good enough, that's the key to have a good progression in your career. So communication, good technical skills, and also like be do something apart from, like I said, like do some mentoring, organize events, volunteer. Those kind of things really will have a long term effect rather than immediate effect. So I think if you do these three, you are in a good position.
Yeah, very true. So, can you discuss, let's say, a particular challenge you face in an AI project, and how did you address it?
Yeah, so we've been trying to build like something for our company, which is similar to what um, most companies are doing, like the Chat GPT equivalent. So the main issue that most companies and us as well face is the privacy issue, because these AI models, as promising they sound, as good they are, they it's difficult for us to trust them. Again, I think because of we don't want to share our customers or private data with them, because we don't understand what's happening in the black box. The data privacy issue has become a key challenge. So we've been looking for things where, hey, can we leverage these AI models and create something of our own, so that we are still protecting our data and taking care of that privacy issues at our end, rather than giving some third party the entire control. So the way we tried to solve this privacy issue was using some fine tuning techniques. So we took the existing AI model and just fine tuned it in our own ecosystem, so that we have the power and we can control the privacy, and we don't compromise on the privacy of our customers. So I think that is one of the biggest concern people have with these AI models. So fine tuning has become also a very good option that people can look into, rather than giving that black box model control. You just take in, understand it, tweak it a little bit with your own data, and then you have the control of your security infrastructure.
Hmm. Wow, you hit it right on the dot because the fact that you said ecosystem, that's huge. To me, ecosystem is having your own foundation model. That's
Mhm.
everything, right?
Yeah.
And that foundation model is when you take ownership of your data. And data is more than just information, it's your differentiator. That is
Yes.
what separates you from the rest. Because
Absolutely.
let's face it, we all have the same tools,
Yeah.
we all have the same. But
Yeah.
what makes us unique that represents our brand, our voice, our customers, or the data?
Yes.
Never give that away.
Yeah. Never give your data away. Yes.
Right. And that is like the underlying understanding of having your own foundation model. And then under the entire ecosystems, um, where you might not only have a chat assistant, you could have multitudes, whatever that might be over time.
Mm-hmm.
But the key is you own the the ecosystem driven by AI. And I
Yeah.
think until then, you truly reap the benefits of AI.
Agree completely. Yes.
Yeah. So, all right. So let's move to ethics of machine learning. So, ethical management of sensitive data is critical in machine learning, especially in fields like healthcare. So, can you
Yes.
elaborate on the ethical consideration and practices that should be put in place?
Yes, so that's very important. Like you have to ensure that you are making sure that you are like following all the regulations. Like healthcare, a lot of times we build like amazing tools, but we are not able to get into the deployment or the production level because of some regulations. So, for example, healthcare has HIPAA regulations. So, anytime you're working in a critical industry, is if it's healthcare or finance or legal, first thing is to understand what the regulations are, what I need to do before I even plan out and start building anything technical, whether it's feasible or not. A lot of times people do a lot of research and build great products, but they're not
Compliant.
following the compliance, or
Yeah.
yeah, not following the regulations. So the first important thing is to make sure you're compliant, make sure you follow the regulations, talk to people if you're not compliant, and get it out of the way. That's the first thing to do, and
Mhm.
then proceed to building something amazing. And even inside your data, you have such sensitive data, make sure you're following encryption policies, or however, whatever the requirements are to make sure your data is secure, it's encrypted in whatever format that industry needs. So just follow those protocols. It's very easy to do, but most people neglect it because they focus on building the product. But even if you build the product and it doesn't get out of the window, there's no
Yeah.
use. So follow the regulations, follow the policies, follow protocols whenever you're building in sensitive industries, especially.
Absolutely. And I keep saying this, we're not in the business of building models. We're in the business of solving problems using
Yeah,
AI.
I like that a lot, actually.
And to to get the best adoption of your product, you have to have the end user
Yeah,
forward feedback from
yeah,
the get-go.
yeah.
And that feedback, first and foremost, should include those um, guardrails or the policies and the HIPAA and so forth.
Mhm, mhm.
So that's how you gain adoption from the end users. And again, we can't work in a silo.
Yeah,
Okay, we're not in a business of just building models. It's about solving problems using
problem.
AI.
Yeah.
So I echo what you're saying.
Yes, yes.
Now, safeguards and policies. So is that something driven by the industry, the client? Can you be more definitive on that? Because it sounds like it's there's not a focal place that will define what those policies are, and it may be um, not as definitive enough.
So it really depends on company to company and industry to industry. So every industry, like healthcare as such, has a lot of government regulations and HIPAA. So that is the first layer of filtration you need to do. And the second layer of filtration is like if you're working in insurance, for example, again there are insurance specific protocols that you need to follow, that the insurance industry as a whole follows. And the third layer is the company wide protocol. So depending on your company, there are certain rules and regulations that the company has. For example, in our case, we as part of my health insurance experience, we had to follow, like, first of all the HIPAA, and then we had company specific rules that, hey, until and unless we get certain number of metrics, certain number of users. So we had a set of beta users who were nurses and physicians who used to test our tool. Unless and until they don't find everything looks good, not just in terms of model accuracy and those technical aspects, ensure that we are not giving out any personal information, everything is in place. So those 200 set of beta users used to fact check everything in the beta version. So there are three layers, I would say. First is the industry that you're working on, and then the sub industry. Like even inside health, there is insurance is a different category. So insurance has their own set of rules and protocols and guardrails. And then as a company, what have you set up? So for our case, we had like, hey, these 200 beta users have to approve it. Then only we'll release it. So those are the three layers that I have worked on, and that has worked really well in terms of ensuring that we are ethically grounded.
Hmm. Now, have you found a situation where, let's say, your client may not have all those policies in place? And then how do you advise them? Where do you get it?
So a lot of smaller companies and startups, I think, have this issue where they don't know. A lot of companies in healthcare, they started off to solve the insurance problem, and they built in great tools, but they were not compliant and they didn't follow the protocols. And that's, even though they had a great product, they were not able to get it out. So I think the best practice to do is get in touch with these organizations who are in charge of making these protocols. So we had a dedicated team inside our organization who used to work with the compliance team, who used to
Mm,
give us these set of, hey, these are the compliance, these are the latest HIPAA practices, and these are the things that you need to follow in your product. So we had a dedicated team who got in touch with whoever is writing these protocols, and getting in touch with the government organizations and making sure they are up to date and they know what is the latest change, and they would just share like bullets with us, hey, these are the things you need to follow. And that kind of, because we were a bigger organization, we had that advantage that we have a dedicated team. But if you're a smaller company and you don't know, get in touch with these organizations and get it out of the window first things before you start even building your product.
hmm. So true. So now, how do you foresee the role of ethics evolving in machine learning and data science in the near future?
It's going to be huge. I think now ethics will comprise of a lot of aspects like responsible AI, explainable AI, privacy, security, compliance. So I think ethics initially was just like being compliant. Now it's going to expand to these newer terms like, responsible AI, where you're making sure that your models are not having any kind of bias, or uh, doing some sort of discrimination because of historically how it's trained on it. I've seen examples where you have these models who are suggesting job and they are biased towards men. So these kind of things happen a lot because of the data, and our data is biased. I mean, historically there has been a bias. So how do you ensure that you are making sure you put in the right techniques in order to make your data more balanced? So I think ethics in machine learning and AI is going to expand to a lot more than what it is right now. It's going to expand to responsible AI, explainable AI, security, privacy, bias. It's going to become a big part of the machine learning process.
I agree. And then as AI advances, all those key elements that you describe are going to be exponentially huge. And I
Definitely.
think it's good for the consumers. It's good for business. You know, it holds us responsible. I think it's a win-win if we all can do this right. And
Yeah.
I always go back about the ethics. For instance, in my mind, your prompts, your directives will lead you to an output in using AI. And ask yourself, do these outputs impose anything negative on your family and your children, let's say?
Mm.
And if your answer is yes, or, you got to rethink.
Yeah,
So put it in a personal perspective.
absolutely.
Um, so that's how you determine is this ethical or not. I
Is it
mean,
ethical or not? Yes, I agree. Yeah, I do that a lot. Like, try to think about it personally. Like, would you
mhm.
do it if you were the CEO? Or, yeah, that makes you, shift your moral compass and do the right thing.
It's AI empathy, and it's not technology. It's we directing the output. So, all right. So now your work in using machine learning to understand college students' emotions is very innovative. So now, can you share what you've discovered and how this can help beyond just students? For instance, older adults.
Absolutely. So I think what I did was, as part of my research, I was looking into sophomore students, and we luckily got access to some students who volunteered to share their text messages, Facebook and just iMessages for a period of 3 weeks, and we tried to analyze and their smartphone usage as well. So using that data was very helpful to understand who in that group is more prone to depression or mental illness. And interesting find was that there was a very direct relationship between what they post on their social media and how much time they use their social media. So people who use a lot of social media and post a lot of content related to what they like on social media, like for example on Facebook, if you're liking content related to being alone, of course that's a very naive example, but things like that are very strong indicators that you are not feeling well and you could be depressed in the future. So we use that learning and kind of built a tool as a virtual assistant, or which could help you talk to somebody and get help if you need it. So the way that tool worked was that nobody wants to, first of all, acknowledge that most people do not want to acknowledge that they are facing depression. So that's the first thing is to make that tool very interactive and very easy to use and very friendly. So it's like a AI buddy for you. And once
Mhm.
you get friendly with it, that's when that tool takes you and asks you, hey, there's a fun therapy session, how can you make therapy sound fun? So that tool kind of becomes your friend first, and then navigates you to this therapy that you might need. So identifying students who could be prone to depression, they are given access to this tool, and then they can use it for their advantage. So similarly, I think if we want to draw this parallel to older adults, I don't know if they have that much smartphone use phones, they use it or not, but we have to figure out some um, other metrics that we can use and we can get their data from, like what do they do during the day, if we have some way of accessing that data, what they do on a daily basis, and identify the key aspects of how we can help them out and find out people who are prone to depression or mental health issues, and then use the same tool and kind of help them out.
No, that's great. I think if we can somehow extrapolate that study outside or beyond of students to older adults, aging population, it's much needed because I think
Yeah,
they are the ones suffering from loneliness the most. So it's
absolutely.
very crucial work. Now, so how does machine learning help in getting a clear picture of someone's emotional health? And like what methods did you find most useful?
So first thing is that need to have good domain knowledge. So in our case, we knew that we are targeting teenagers, and teenagers spend a lot of time on their smartphones and what social media apps they use, where they hang out, their location. Those things were key factors in understanding the domain. And then the second aspect was, another interesting aspect we figured out was that whether they are in a relationship or not, because that's also a key indicator of whether you are feeling lonely or have any mental health issues. In terms of building machine learning models, that is the easiest part, I would say. Like once you have good data, once you have good understanding of your problem and the solution that you're targeting, building a model is pretty straightforward. Like we experimented with bunch of popular uh, machine learning models back. This was 5 years ago, so we didn't have like very sophisticated models that we have right now. But all the models that we experimented, the classical machine learning models, they gave us pretty good understanding of why certain people. So once we got a prediction, then we backtraced and looked at, okay, these were the features of that person who is suggested as being depressed in the future. And we took a look at what are the common aspects that we can find in all the people that were predicted to have depression. And we could really get really good insights like, hey, okay, not being in a relationship is one. Using social media at night at those 3 a.m. and those kind of times is another indicator. And liking posts which are like very weird, not very common, like feeling lonely, feeling depressed, liking those kind of posts, another indicator. So those were like good insights we got. There were a couple of anomalies also. People in a relationship and using less social media were also, we found out, were depressed. But then it goes to another set of features, like people who have all said that, hey, they've had like some childhood trauma or things like that. So on top of the data that we had from their smartphone, we also did a survey where we had like fill them up some questionnaire. So there were some anomalies we got, like even though they have a childhood trauma very early, even now they feel they have those feelings, even though life is really good for them right now. They are in a relationship, they have good academics, they have good friend circles, still maybe sometimes demons of the past haunts
Mhm.
them. So it was good, like we could get some anomalies as well as kind of generalize and get some really interesting insights from machine learning.
Mm-hmm. Valuable. It's so important to hone into the mental health of teens, mental health of older adults. It's much needed, you
Yes,
know. And I
agree.
think we're I'm seeing the delayed effects of COVID. Many of us, I don't think, have recovered from the loneliness and isolation from COVID, and it's very unfortunate.
I agree. I agree. We are seeing the side effects of COVID even now because people are still not getting used to the work from home setup, or living in an isolated environment. They're still struggling with it. So yeah, it's interesting to have these kind of tools so we understand them and help them out, however we can.
Hmm. So now the methods that you describe, these machine learning methods, can it be used in other people or in other aspects, other areas?
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, you mean apart from mental health?
Mental health and teens? I believe it can, but I just thought,
Yeah,
what do you think? Like,
sure.
where can we use that?
I mean, we can use the framework that we had for solving any sort of classification problem. Like, let's say we want to classify whether a person has diabetes or not. All we need to do is like change the data and little bit of tweaks here and there. But we can apply it to any area as such, wherever we are trying to predict something.
Hmm. So now, in a field as dynamic as data science,
Mhm.
continuous learning is huge. So,
Absolutely.
how do you approach staying ahead in this rapidly changing field?
It is indeed, like in the past, in weeks, certain new tools of fine tuning a large language model comes up. It is very difficult to learn everything. It is impossible. So what I try to do is I try to subscribe to some newsletters which kind of give me some concise information. I don't need to learn every fine tuning technique that is available. I just need to learn the top one or two.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to stay ahead by spending time in reading like newsletters or watching some videos, which is like 15-20 minutes a day. And only when I see like, oh, this is pretty valuable, I need to dive deep into it, then I would spend some time and go deep, read some research papers. But I don't think anybody has the time to learn every single thing that is coming, because it's just way too overwhelming. So if you want to do something quick and stay ahead of the curve, just couple of ways is like network with people. If you don't have time for that, read a newsletter. There are lots of newsletters that give a concise summarized this week's updates on AI. And if you find something which is interesting and caters to your needs or interest, just read about it more. And another way of learning a lot is attending conferences and events. That is something been valuable for me because I attended a couple of conferences, and what I learned from those conferences is currently what I'm applying at work. So that's also, and I couldn't find that on online. So it's a mix and it's a combination of multiple things.
Hmm. So perhaps online courses, Corsica, is it Corsica? Did I say that right?
Coursera, yes.
Coursera, Coursera,
Coursera.
okay. Um, there's, well, when you say Coursera, I mean, that's all you need to say. There's nothing else.
Yeah,
In my mind,
yeah,
it's really good, you
it
know?
is very good. Yes,
Right. I
the,
love his work. Andrew Ng is just wonderful, you
he
know?
is amazing. Yes,
Yeah. So online courses like that and networking events,
absolutely.
having one-on-one conversations like this to help kind of complement, supplement your knowledge, and maybe even open some views that you thought one way at a point in time, and it could make you more well versed, right? And I think
Yeah.
the key is adaptable.
Absolutely. You said it right. Like being very adaptable, not living in denial. Like some people are not willing to accept that, hey, AI is important. So be willing to adopt it and adapt with it and learn from it. So yeah, adaptable is the right thing to do right now.
Hmm. And then echoing what you said earlier, is lifelong learning and adaptability. Those two are huge. And you don't even need to be a programmer. You don't even need to know Python.
No,
You just need to know how to speak English. And
exactly. At
because
this
that's your
point,
prompt.
yeah, that's what AI has done. It has completely democratized tech for everybody. So all you need to do is just know English, and you can build AI products.
Hmm. Hmm. So true. So now, how do you balance the need for specialized knowledge and broad understanding of emergent trends like data science?
So I think one of the things is like I engage myself in a lot of initiatives apart from work because when you grow in your career, a lot of times you're doing a lot of managerial and leadership roles. So sometimes it's difficult to get time to do like hands-on and learn more things in your field. So I try to get involved in initiatives outside of work, for example, like the Women in Data chapter,
Hmm.
and talking at conferences about explainable AI. Those things kind of help me dive deeper and brushing up my data science concepts because I'm not going to just talk about what is this concept. I'm going to show in practice how it's done. So probably while you work on creating a demo for people to understand, you need to understand it pretty well. So that's how I try to balance it out, like at work what you're doing, and then outside of work you can participate in conferences and networking at the same time taking volunteering jobs, so that you are, if people are looking up to you, then you better be good. So that's how you
Yeah, I think social media has opened up plethora of opportunities, right?
yeah,
Um, Conferences, virtual or um, in the physical location, and then it opens up for opportunities to join groups, webinars like this, or just listening in. So
yeah.
the opportunity to learn, it's out there, abundant. Now, of course, you got to choose what is trustworthy
Mm-hmm.
and what like applicable in your niche, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I just think it's a great time to innovate, to
It is.
learn,
It is.
adapt, and just keep an open mind and be a lifelong learner.
Absolutely. It is a great time to be living.
It is. It is. It's almost like Christmas morning, so to speak. I feel that way every time I use AI to create an image. My eye just like, wow.
Wow. Yeah. I cannot imagine not using these tools on a daily basis now. And
Yeah.
it was not there a year ago, so it's amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing, a little bit scary because um as the API, the open API was not working for I would say half a day here in Eastern time.
Yeah.
Boy.
How am I gonna work now?
Exactly. So I was gonna say, like, what did you do to adapt for those 4 hours?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you. Okay, so as we kind of wrap up towards the end, do you have anything else that you would like to add?
I mean, I wanted to ask you actually, like, how are you planning to, spread awareness about? It's a very interesting initiative that you have. If you don't mind talking a little bit more about what's the scope of this, and how can we, I mean, me or other people in the community help you out with this initiative?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I'm very passionate of enhancing lives of older adults and providing tools, tech, care for the aging population. And for the longest time, I've had the idea of providing an ecosystem
Mm-hmm.
where it's not just, let's say, senior living, senior care, because I want to focus more than just care. And I don't want to group older adults in one demographic because there's a wide gamma of folks. I'm an older adult. I'm approaching 60. My needs are very different, 60s to 70s and 80s. But I want to encompass all of the top issues that we will go through.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, affordable housing, healthcare, senior living, um, legal issues, right? Saving for long term care, relationship with your spouse, or dealing with loss, dealing with grandchildren. It's a big scope that I want to address, but I think it's more possible to keep it under one umbrella now that we have AI. I mean, if you think about it, OpenAI has this large language model across the world, right? Older adults is one demographic in that. And I think it's very possible to create one so that a senior will have their own AI assistant that
Yeah,
will
that would
encompass
be.
all of those key components. And I've just mentioned a small glimpse. There
Hmm.
are many that I have not mentioned, but I think you get the gist.
I
And,
do.
and I think the reason why it's important because we need to know that well, they need to know that, they matter and that
We care
there's
for them.
something exactly. And that we not, we recognize their concerns. Now, when I say we understand, it's hard to say that because, we're not 80s or 90s. We live with our parents or grandparents. So we see their concerns and we want to ensure that they're not alone.
Mm-hmm.
There's a resource out there that can help.
Mm-hmm.
And, you do feel alone when you go through this because you're surfing on the web.
Mm-hmm.
And who do you trust? Where do you go?
Yeah.
That's just one component, let's say affordable housing. But what about my health care? What about insurance
Mm-hmm.
or legal issues? Things of that nature. So my goal is to encompass that into one ecosystem.
That is beautiful. I love that. Let me know if is there any way if I can support you. I would love to do that.
Great. I do. I love to because we're strategizing. And, the key is enhancing lives. And I think it's so important, like what we discuss, AI empathy, AI mental health. It's about improving the quality of lives for
Hmm.
people. It's not about building models, and it's not about just tech for the sake of tech. It's enhancing lives,
Absolutely.
and it's not about replacing people. It's about freeing you up so that you do
Things that
what
you love.
the core, the heart, the soul of your business,
Hmm.
right? Because I don't like administrative stuff. I don't like setting up meetings, things of that nature. So
Right.
that is my passion. And with folks like you adding to the conversation. So I'm excited to continue our conversation after this.
Absolutely. I had a lovely time. Thank you so much for inviting me, and I would love to support your initiative in any way possible.
Thank you. Thank you so much. All right. So I'm going to hit end.